Hey guys, welcome back to the D-Pad.
I'm Rick,
I'm John.
and we thought it would be important to kind of take a minute and kind of make a little video to sort of share our thoughts and remember Satoru Iwata. We didn't we do a lot of scripted stuff, and we decided not to script this because it's sort of a complicated thing to talk about and think about, and
Yeah, and it's hard to script feelings, you know?
yeah, especially stuff that's this raw and this recent and this big. Like, it's
Like, I don't know about you, I was so surprised at how much it hit me. I mean, like, obviously it's a tragedy, but, like, it hit me personally, and I was surprised about that.
yeah.
I mean, you know me, I'm, like, Mr. Morbid, like, death all the time, but that just, like, caught me off guard. Megan texted me and was like, I'm so sorry about the Nintendo president. And I was like, what? And I hadn't heard.
Yeah, me and Ben were watching a Bond movie for the next Seriously video, and all of a sudden in the next room we just hear John go, "Oh my God!"
Yeah.
And we're like, "Okay, what?" And he told us what happened, and that was just the end of the night right there. Like, there was nothing else after that.
Yeah, it was crazy, and, like, you know, trying to hold back tears, which is, again, like, it's not like we knew him personally, so it's always, always, you know.
It kind of felt like it, though.
I know.
The thing. Like, Iwata was a very personable sort of character.
He became, like, Nintendo's mascot.
Yeah,
which is something I've never heard of any CEO really doing other than maybe Colonel Sanders, and I don't mean to draw that comparison.
If you've ever seen a video of Colonel Sanders eating chicken, you would not feel that way. It's not good.
That's true, but if I saw, but I'm happy when I see Iwata-san playing games.
Yeah,
so.
it's and like, I don't know, there was something about the way that he was so, pardon the pun, direct with everyone. He was very, very big on making sure that everything was open and very transparent, and very, that the players had a way of seeing what was going on behind the scenes and understanding the mindset of the people making the games, you know?
And it seems like he was, really good at what he did, and not just running the company, but, like, being a programmer. You were the one who told me this, that apparently he was the one who figured out how to fit all of Kanto into Pokemon Gold.
Yeah.
Which was incredible to me. I mean, we're both sort of programmers, and we know how that shit can be, and that seems just, like, so huge.
Yeah, especially on, I mean, it's fairly ancient technology, but it's not like, we're taking this Game Boy game and moving into the Game Boy Color. How do we squeeze it down now that we have more advanced technology? This was still just a Game Boy game.
Yeah.
It's all the same stuff, and he literally invented a new kind of compression to squeeze. Red and Blue took up the entire cartridge, and he squeezed Gold and Silver down into a little over half, which let them put the entire Kanto map minus, I think, 2 areas into the whole thing,
awesome.
which is pretty amazing.
And he also he worked on he worked at HAL Laboratories, right?
Yeah.
Was that his first job?
He, I don't know that he started at HAL, but he was very, very, like, one of his, he started very quickly with HAL.
Yeah.
And he worked particularly with the Kirby series. He was a programmer with the Kirby series pretty much from the outset. I don't know if he worked on Kirby's Dream Land, but he at least worked with Kirby's Adventure, which was only the second Kirby game they ever put out.
Kirby's Adventure, like, blew my mind. I was able to rent it once as a child, and, renting was what we did back then because we were cool and that was a thing. And I played the game once, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing and fun and creative and happy, and I still like it, and
it's one of the only sequels I've ever seen that blows the original completely out of the water.
Yeah. Oh,
like,
definitely.
Kirby's Dream Land is still a fun, very short Game Boy game, but Kirby's Adventure is a huge NES game that shaped the entire franchise.
Yeah, and I played it that one time, and then it was gone. I was never able to track it down again. I haven't played it since I was 10 or 9 or however old I was when it came out.
See, I'm on the other end.
So I'm really looking forward to playing it.
I used to go to my grandmother's house.
I remember it being, like, just magical,
Yeah, I had my cousin got married this past week, and one of my only older cousin, me and him were talking about our old NES games and playing stuff at our grandmother's place, and Kirby's Adventure was one of the games that we kept there. Literally, like, for a while, we didn't have NESs at our place, so we just bought NES games and brought them to our grandmother's place and left them there. And Kirby's Adventure was one of the games that we had there, and I played it to death. And I think it's one of the only games that I've routinely picked up every, maybe year or two and played through pretty much completely, start to finish. Like no Zelda game has ever done that for me.
I wonder if he worked in Kirby Superstar because he's like
he did.
That is a contender for one of my top games of all time.
He was one of the people behind Kirby Superstar.
And even just to yes, he was a game designer and developer and player and all that great, but he also did a pretty bang up job running Nintendo. I mean, everyone focuses.
He's been doing it for 13 years.
Yeah, everyone
he's been the president and 2 years he's been the CEO.
Yeah, everyone focuses on the negative, on the missteps or the perceived missteps, but really like. The 3DS just prints money. Like there was a lot going right for Nintendo too.
And I think it speaks volumes for him as well. That while the 3DS, especially the DS did amazing, and the Wii did amazing. The 3DS took longer to get started, and the Wii U is still really not there yet. But because of how the first year of Wii U sales went, it wasn't going so well. And you're probably going to hear all these little anecdotes that we talk about are probably all over the net right now. You can find them. Yeah. But when the Wii U underperformed, there was a lot of pressure to have layoffs it's a standard thing. If a game or a company's not doing well, they have to lay people off to offset the losses. But he decided instead he was going to keep every member of his team and instead cut his own salary in half, just to make sure that not a single person had to lose their job over what he perceived to be his own shortcomings for not getting the Wii U to be a bigger seller, which that's huge. I've worked in a lot of different jobs in various industries, and I can't think of a single company president, CEO, anyone who would ever do something that huge to save, all us little people kind of thing,
Yeah, and that's pretty cool. And he also, he doesn't back down,
No.
He did the things he wanted to do, and Nintendo has always been a company with really high morals or values that they kind of stick to.
Yeah, and this isn't, no console war, crap and all of this, Sony and Microsoft and Sega back in the day and all the various competitors with Atari and all that stuff, Neo Geo, all those people, they had, we're not, trying to say any of them are immoral or anything, but you get the sense watching Sony or Microsoft conferences, even those at E3 where, there's a lot of emphasis on the games, which is great, and there's emphasis on new technology, which is great. But every now and then, you fall into this sort of little dip of all right, these are cool looking, but with Nintendo, Iwata always focused on fun. That was his big thing, is that he always wanted to make sure that no matter what they made, the games were always fun.
Which seems like a pretty obvious thing to focus on in a game industry, but
you'd think, but
it's one of those things. It's like that simple vision. I mean, it's. I don't want to get into weird comparisons here, but it's that single-minded focus on fun. It kind of almost reminds me of Steve Jobs' single-minded focus on just easy to use, and that's what makes them so different. Yeah, exactly. Rick and I both work at a school, and I was sitting in class while the students were working on a project. This was the day after, and I was on Kotaku, and I know it's one of the jokes of the D-pad actually is that we just all we do is read Kotaku to you, and today I'm literally going to do that because there was this article that was all about the entire industry and community reacting to this, and I think you didn't see it, and I wanted to share some of that with you because I was sitting in a classroom full of people who I was teaching and fighting back tears. I had to stand up and walk around, and it was really heavy. So we're going to just take a quick look at some of these things, and I wanted to point out a few of them.
Yeah.
So
this is the Kotaku article.
It's entitled The Video Game Community Pays Tribute to Satoru Iwata. So, one, the Nintendo flag was flying at half-mast.
I thought that was a really... I saw that, and that was the first thing where I was just oh, God.
Yeah. Oh, it gets so much worse.
I know. It was one. It's one of those things where, again, you don't expect companies or corporations to really go that far. Obviously they honor the people who run the company and stuff, but this is sort of this is how seriously and this is how hugely they take this sort of thing where they're gonna.
Yeah. Reggie said something really nice. Maybe we can throw that up on the screen. It's pretty long. Beautiful. In remembrance from Nintendo of America's Twitter account, in remembrance of Mr. Satoru Iwata, Nintendo will not be posting on social media channels today. That was nice. One of my favorite comics, Brawl in the Family, did this super somber.
I was
Kirby
surprised
and
when I
DDD.
saw it because they shut down
Yeah.
a year or so ago. So I
Yeah.
saw that and the art style was like, oh no,
It's
oh
like,
no.
oh god, and it's so sad, and it's the balloons in the distance.
Yeah, Balloon
So
Fighter was one
good.
of the first games that Satoru Iwata worked on.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons that it keeps popping up in Smash Brothers for like music and stuff too.
Masahiro Sakurai, the Smash guy, who's known. I think this is just perfect. This isn't a regular day, and my mental state isn't regular either, but I'm going to work as usual, and like always, I'm throwing myself into game development. That was also the situation for Iwata-san, doing what you need to do. And I feel like that's exactly what Sakurai would say.
Yeah. If you're unfamiliar, Masahiro Sakurai routinely puts himself near hospitalization for overworking himself because of his own passion for Smash Brothers in particular, but all of the Hell stuff. And actually, one of the bigger stories that I didn't know about until recently is the original Super Smash Brothers. Some reports say Melee, but I think it was the original. Was very buggy. Only 3 months before, 3 weeks before it was supposed to come out. So Iwata, who was president of HAL Laboratories at the time, personally came down, set up a team, and led the team through 3 weeks of debugging at finding the bugs. They didn't know what the hell was wrong, and they found the bugs, fixed the game completely, and met their ship date. That's awesome. Less than 3 weeks. That's unheard of for literally the president come down and is like, all right, guys, let's get down here.
And
we're gonna get our hands dirty.
It's not even the programming muscle that would take to get that to happen. But it's the fact that he was able to organize and lead people into it. You know? Being
That's
a
scary
good programmer does not make you a good leader. In fact, I'm convinced to get good at programming, you have to trade in your social skills. But it seems like he could do it.
I think it's one thing to be a good programmer. Like you can learn systems, you can learn how they work, and you can learn optimization of various stuff. And that's obviously what led to things like fixing the Melee or fixing the Smash Brothers code, getting Kanto into gold and silver. He figured out, he created the battle system for Stadium from scratch without the original source documents in a week.
What?
Yeah. It's like, obviously the programming skills are all there, but like there's a determination in that too. The time in which he can manage to get all this stuff.
The Sakurai factor, we'll call it.
One of the thing that got him into video games passionately in the first place when he was a kid, he actually figured out how Commodores worked by hand. Like he figured out, it was some source code thing involving Commodores. I think it was literally like fault codes, and he figured out how to debug a Commodore from home as a kid, but cool. Like on pen and paper. Like it's astonishing the skill that this guy had. And I think like it's difficult because there's two sides of it. You got to have the knowledge of what's going on, but you have to be able to be charismatic enough, and you have to know how to get people to want to work and how to get people to want to be excited about this stuff.
And he just had like a mellow, respectable energy. I don't know how to explain it,
Yeah.
This one got me.
Yeah. Oh, PlayStation.
Yeah.
The PlayStation Twitter account.
Just thank you for everything, Mr. Iwata. That one is the one that made me go, oh,
yes.
There's so many. I'm gonna try and just pick the ones that
Phil Spencer
from Xbox.
Major Nelson dropped one too.
Really?
Yep.
There were so many of these Mario graphics with the half-mast flag at the end of World 1-1.
Yep.
Let's see, the rare people.
I didn't realize that he was actually the one that was the biggest name behind Amiibo. He was basically the driving force to make that happen.
Oh, really?
I feel like it's kind of obvious in hindsight, I guess, but he really believed in, being able to, like we saw beta style things of that with like Spyro, like Skylanders stuff, where it's like, oh, here's a toy, and it's like augmented reality. But I think he had a bigger idea of like, well, what if we just make toys like that are actual toys that can do more than just that? We can make them work for 100 games if we want to. And he really reinforced, I want this technology to be used for something that's not just a cash grab. I want it to be something that's meaningful to them.
Yeah. I think a lot of us, when we first heard about Amiibos, we were like, oh, a cash grab. But
the first thing
there's a lot more going on there than I thought.
Yeah. The first thing I thought when I saw it, I was like, oh, Jesus, more Skylander stuff. But as they added games to Mario Kart, Hyrule Warriors, Splatoon has their own ones. The new Mario, there's another Mario game that's got them right now. I forget if it was New Mario Brothers U or something, but No, I don't think it was. It was like Super Mario 3D World or something. I think
New Super Mario 3D World Brothers U Street
something.
Turbo
But like,
Championship.
I don't know. There's sort of a forethought. There's a foresight going into that stuff.
Yeah. This one with all the Nintendo characters in funeral suits. Oh, Jesus. The Bungie guys. There was just one or two more that, like, again, stopped me in the middle of class, and
it's just weird. It's
Capcom.
It's particularly difficult because it is such a big force in video games. Like, I can't even think of a good comparison because the names that come to mind are so huge that they're probably going to have a similar feeling for that. But like, oh my God, I can't even literally think of one. But like, if the president of, and I'm just going to throw this out, it's not,
Dangerous Game, Rick.
I know. If the president of BioWare died this week, I'm sure there would be a huge, there'd be a lot of feelings. A lot of people would get very emotional. I don't think it would be on the clearly just global scale.
Oh, no. I mean,
and that's not a favoritism thing. That's just
the very company that Nintendo was, which he had a big hand in, makes it so that the reach is wider. All ages, all countries, all types of gamers, all people. Zelda Williams, which is sad for a couple of levels. We've got this another me.
Yeah,
amazing
I really like that
one. Really,
the one little hand holding and. Splatoon. The Miiverse posts were overwhelmingly Iwata related. And some folks were tweeting about it and saying it's really difficult to play Splatoon today because it's just everywhere.
Yeah. And the Miiverse or whatever it is just they're all. We'll throw them up on the screen.
Yeah.
I don't know. And there were more and more and more and more, and it was, again, it was so personal. It doesn't feel personal when celebrities die, and not that he's a celebrity in his way, Well, it felt personal.
It feels like, and again, comparisons. It's not really a fair. It's not fair to make comparisons on this kind of stuff. But obviously, there was a lot of stunned reaction when, say, Michael Jackson died. This is more or less the gaming equivalent of that. This is someone who is so huge. This is important.
This is the comparisons are tough. The comparisons are tough. This is like he's like the father of gaming and I don't mean father in like he created gaming. He's like the paternal figure of gaming right now.
I think he helped re-steer
gaming grandpa.
He sort of re-steered Nintendo in the right direction because in the GameCube years, in the late 90s, early 2000s, when the N64 was ending, the GameCube was starting, you could tell that Nintendo was trying to compete with the PlayStation in a really direct way. And some of that feeling kind of started to go away. I don't know. The N64 and GameCube and early GameCube years were a really tough time Nintendo-wise because they were at the top of their game and suddenly everything was falling apart. And you could tell near the end of GameCube, and especially when the Wii was being built and when it launched, that like they had a new face. They had a new idea of how to be and how to exist and how to
conduct themselves.
Yeah.
What kind of company they wanted to be.
Exactly. And they realized that, it's not always about competition. It's not always about winning. It's about making sure that people can always come back for, an enjoyable experience. They come back for
if in 100 years with the state of things as they are right now, Nintendo will be in the history books and PlayStation and Xbox may not,
I think
now,
I think they both would be.
They would be in this.
It's a matter of
as
Nintendo's
far as
been a force for
impact,
30 years.
Impact
which
on
no one
culture,
else,
impact on the industry, impact on just the most people.
Nintendo's been part of the gaming culture the longest for 30 years. I mean, Atari has sort of been in and out, but they're certainly not what they used to be. Yeah. It's gonna take time to see if Sony or Microsoft is in the same boat. But
and we're not knocking them. It's just a different kind of feeling.
Nintendo has always been, or at least they have since the 80s, been gaming. That's been their whole thing, is making games. Well, Sony and Microsoft are bigger creatures. They have other things.
I just feel like I'm not so. Maybe it's nostalgia, but I think it's not. I think it's the type of passion and the type of creativity and the type of love that goes into Nintendo games. A lot of work, blood, sweat, and tears go into Halo, but I wouldn't immediately say a lot of love went into Halo.
I mean, I'm
sure it did. It's somebody's pet creation, but there's so much love throughout all the Nintendo properties. It's just a different thing. Maybe
Yeah,
that's the wrong
it's
word too.
I understand what you mean. Like
There's
there's
just some
an
kind of
atmosphere. There's
difference.
there's a certain feeling that you get. Even in the drearier games, you can still feel there's a certain level of
Hey,
I don't
watch
know.
this video where the D-pad can't articulate our feelings very well.
It's
Hey,
um
but yeah, I mean,
I don't even know what I'm doing with this. I found a bunch of games that Satoru Iwata had a hand in creating. These are all from my childhood. These are like, I got Kirby's Pinball Land. I'm not actually sure if he was in that. I assume he was, but I've got, for example, Kirby's Dream Land with my name written on the bottom in my mother's handwriting because this was how much video games meant to me that I would just break down if I ever lost them.
I think Nintendo and by extension Iwata made it okay to want to feel like a kid again. I think that's part of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and it's an important thing, and it's hard these days. There's so much in the world that requires you to be an adult and requires you to look at things from an objective, cold, logical kind of stance. And video games, and really all entertainment as a whole really tries to, it's escapism, but there's only so much you can do in TV or film or music or art, painting, sculpture, theater that can make you really feel like a kid and just sort of feel that unrestricted joy. But video games have always been that, and I think they'll always be that. They are they're a way for you to, regardless of age, just have fun. And that's something that is a really hard thing to do. It's impressive that video games have been so big and have been evolving so much over 30 years, 40 years if we want to go back to like Pong. But
well, yeah, and I mean it's interesting, and I think one last thing we need to wrap this up. I mean we're going long, but he was so under the radar too. He just only recently sort of became the public face of Nintendo, but he's been there for everything. I mean, when this happened and we started doing research, he was a part of every major project that we were all loving and not even realizing.
He produced dozens of games, and then, while at the top of Nintendo, personally wound up acting as executive producer for hundreds of games. There's over 250 credits to his name in 20 years. And almost all of them are games that I hold very dear. The Kirby series, the Zelda series, he was very involved in.
I'm not fond of the Zelda series.
A lot of Mario.
Oh yeah, I mean all of them at some point. And Pokemon, little game we enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Earthbound. Oh my God, Earthbound.
That's the one. I was like, there's a big one we're forgetting, but we're on camera, so we can't say
that. Halfway through production, Earthbound was about to be canceled. So Satoru Iwata started the entire game code from scratch and got it cleaned up and working and fixed in a way where they were like, all right, let's do it. And it is now arguably the biggest cult classic in video games.
Makes sense, and why it reminds me of Dragon Warrior in terms of the combat.
Yeah. It really is. It's very Dragon Warrior. It's like an active time battle Dragon Warrior, which, speaking of, so when I was a kid, I mentioned that we used to keep our video games at my grandmother's place, and the two games that I played overwhelmingly more than anything else, more than Mario, more than Zelda, as much as I love, both of those franchises, on the NES, the stuff that I played the absolute most happened to be two games that Satoru Iwata was a pivotal, part in creating. One of them is Kirby's Adventure, which we were talking about a little while ago. It might not be the first one that he did if he worked on Kirby's Dream Land, but at the latest, it was the second one that he and he was a programmer for it, so he was part of what made the game really special. And the other one is Dragon Warrior, which is probably my favorite RPG from the old days of the NES era, at least. What was interesting is he specifically worked on Dragon Warrior, not Dragon Quest. He was actually a localization programmer for it, which I thought was kind of cool. So it's not even like, oh, I missed out on this, because he worked on this specifically. I have Nightmare in Dreamland, and I have the Dragon Quest 1 and 2 remakes, but I've kept these guys for a long, long time. And I think what we're going to be doing is on Monday, we're gonna start playing Kirby's Adventure in honor of Satoru Iwata. And maybe we'll see how we're feeling, but we might also try playing Dragon Warrior 1.
We'll at least play some of it.
Yeah, we'll at least play some of it.
Old RPGs are painful to sit through.
This was actually pretty quick,
but it could be okay.
It's weirdly quick, but we wanted to find some way to honor Satoru Iwata beyond just this video. We wanted to do something. It's one thing to make a video and emote and stuff, but it's also another thing for us to do something as us, to be the D-pad for Satoru Iwata and to do something,
it's a good way to look at it.
I thought that would be kind of a special way to do that. Is two of my favorite games growing up.
So yeah, sorry to bum you out a little bit, but in a weird way, it's also kind of inspirational to look at. So I guess we'll see you Monday for Kirby's Adventure.
Yeah.
See ya.
I miss you.